trying to figure out more ways to deal with the bigotries of daily life and to allow people who experience those bigotries to live without those bigotries being visited upon them, no, screw that. I'm gonna get canceled regardless. So who cares? Who cares? I might as well be as problematic as I want. Don't worry about it. Just live my life because the mob is coming for us all anyway. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Curved Thoughts. And today we're going to be talking about our favorite topic, the one that brings us all together and unites us. Yes, the great specter, cancel culture. At this point in time, what can I possibly say about cancel culture that hasn't been said already? Do you want to hear about how it's running amok? How these universities are indoctrinating our children to believe the latest postmodern social justice nonsense? Or do you want to hear more about how cancel culture is just a reflexive way for people to speak about the fact that they want to continue being awful without having to experience any kind of consequences? Or do you want to go for that third take where you're like, cancel culture is good actually, and we need to cancel everybody in sight? Now, I'm not going to be weighing in too much onto the merits on the direct nature of cancel culture. Bonus content, what I actually think about cancel culture at large. What we really want to talk about today is cancel culture in the sense that there is a culture now emerging around being concerned about cancel culture. I mean, people nowadays have entire personalities that are based off of nothing but vitriol for supposed cancel culture. You can write books, you can have entire podcasts with that being your main subject line and have effectively permanent traffic. Now, where does that come from? I'm not talking about the actual cancellations that might happen, the actual problematic behavior that takes place. No, I'm more talking about the fact that right now there are people, and it's becoming a lot more prevalent, for people to interpret and view the entire world through the lens of cancel culture. Do you remember last week when we did that video on Adam Habib? If you didn't get a chance to check it out, the link should be floating right above my head. Make sure to go take a look. But in that video, we saw Adam Habib in public by himself, without any prompting from any other individual, saying some, let's just say, ill-advised things. Now, in that context, you would imagine that if you're in a position of power, you say things which genuinely offend people and genuinely have an impact upon your ability to continue in your role, that there can be some kind of professional censure that can happen under those circumstances. It's called, what's the word I'm looking for? Consequence. Yes, consequence. However, the issue isn't consequence. The issue is that no matter what would happen to Adam Habib, there are those, even if the organization were to just come forth and say we distance ourselves from his views, there are those who would not be able to interpret that on its own outside of the purview and the context of cancel culture. It just seems to be the case that almost every event can be interpreted under that lens. This thinking even infects politics, and especially cases where a right-wing party or somebody within the more right-leaning part of the centrist lane has to experience certain kind of consequences for behaviors and actions. How fast is it going to be before people start talking about the fact that no, this is just cancel culture? This is just some progressive or some liberal or some leftist. It's somebody out here just trying to ruin somebody and ruin their life because they don't agree with the brand of ideology that that person has. The examples of this are replete all across the world, as if any and all actions are effectively the same. And people are just going to call you racist, they're going to call you sexist, they're going to call you a transphobe. Anyway, no matter what you do, you're just going to come say, hello everybody, racist, homophobe, cancel that person. So because of that kind of dynamic, it makes it very difficult for people to reflect on their behavior, to reflect on actions that have taken place in the world, to reflect on events that have occurred in the world. If it's always possible to respond in the same way to so many of these events, then it doesn't allow you to absorb the necessary nuance to properly contextualize those events. What this allows you in effect to do is to remain stagnant for the rest of your life. Ultimately, a more refined version of status quo advocacy. And I say a more refined version because generally when you advocate for the status quo, it looks kind of ugly. You have to You have to be able to, right, when advocating for the status quo, you have to be able to say, I'm taking into account all the misery I see in the world, all the bigotry, all the inequity, all the inequality, all the injustice, all of that, bundling it up, shake the pot, throw it on the ground, and I actually confirm that this is all good. That the situation that we broadly speaking find ourselves in is good. Maybe not the best possible version, but better than a version that other people are advocating for right now. Effectively, if you advocate for the status quo, is you're saying that of all the available ideas of how things should be, the way things are is the best out of that set. Not necessarily perfect, but by definition, the best out of that set. Most people don't find themselves able to do so and to advocate for the status quo in that way. The way that you're able to get away with that, though, is that you don't have to appeal directly to the status quo. You just have to point out that all the various ways people are trying to change it is effectively cancel culture. The thing is, on some level, we are trying to replace you. But we're not trying to replace you because you're white, or because you're male, or because you're cis, or because you're Western, or because you speak English as a primary language. No. The thing we're trying to replace is the form of thinking you currently represent. But that, I think, comes to the crux of what cancel culture is truly about: a resistance to changing how you operate in the world and how you think about the world. It's not necessarily a resistance to material consequences in the world, because everybody who complains about cancel culture is very happy to see material consequences happening to other people. 99 times out of 100. The main issue though, and where I think a lot of this comes from, in particular, the cancel culture, not specifically people who are concerned that there is a growing wave of people who are more than happy to go the whole hog when it comes to finding out how you've interacted in private and perhaps in ways that might find you being censured in public life. There is a problem there. Different episode. Make sure you subscribe to the channel to find out more. But the main thing about cancel culture is making sure that you are as resistant to anything that might force you to change your mind, force you to change your beliefs as humanly possible. If all you see is, okay, when somebody expresses a view I already have, that person experiences blowback, right? The usual human mechanism of, I have that same belief. That person expresses that belief. That person's getting dragged through the mud for it. Am I perhaps, am I and that person perhaps wrong, and all the people dragging us maybe have a point? No. Cancel culture allows you to immediately short circuit that particular self awareness that might gain place, because as soon as you see yourself in the person being censured, you no longer are able to see maybe there's a way I can be better, because all you're seeing is the negative part of this. And the reason we know that it's a lot about making sure that you never have to change is consider the framing often that people bring to cancel culture conversations. So people come forth and say, you can't say X anymore, rather than saying, the people whom X affects, those people have made interesting points and have given us a deeper view into their humanity and into their experiences when they have to engage with the word X or with the term X. Therefore, because we know about how it impacts those people, maybe we shouldn't use X anymore, right? You see the subtle difference there in the focus. The difference between I am no longer allowed to say this word that I was accustomed to saying versus this word that I'm accustomed to saying makes other people uncomfortable in a particular way. Therefore, I want to stop using it. Cancel culture effectively forces you to perpetually censor yourself. And the reason you censor yourself is out of fear. You have to be afraid that what happened to somebody else because of their beliefs could potentially happen to you because of yours. You have to be continually afraid that what happened to somebody else because of a view they express that you privately hold, now it's going to have the same impact on your life. It's fear of what might happen if you delve into the public world incomplete, imperfect. It's fear of the process of change. Because change, sorry to tell all y'all, is never free. Now, of course, the conversation to be had about ways in which we engage people who are in their imperfect stages as they're evolving and changing, that's another much wider conversation, because there definitely has to be better ways in which we enable people to reform, reflect, rehabilitate. And certainly that is a thing that must be done because we're human. Nobody's the perfect product from the beginning. You're going to require evolution, you're going to require teaching. However, that process is immediately undermined, immediately from the jump, if you feel that any expression on your part towards non-perfection, if immediately the sense of fear, like, you know exactly what I'm talking about, right? Those private views that you wish you could express and say, hey, I'm here now, I'm bad at this, I want to learn more and get better so I can improve. But that fear in the pit of your stomach that doesn't necessarily allow you to even go there, lest you get immediately, irrevocably, and utterly cancelled, might just mean that you have bought a bit too much into cancel culture. At the end of the day, I want you all to remember something. The odds of you actually being cancelled, infinitesimally low. Infinitesimally low. I cannot stress enough how low the odds are that anybody in this wide world cares enough specifically about you, to go out of their way to make sure you get cancelled. However, I can tell you that it would mean the world to somebody already in your life who's not trying to cancel you if you learn to just be better to them, better to others, and better to yourself. And what that requires is letting go of the fear of being cancelled and rather embracing the joy of being human. Taking a social risk to become a better human being is worth more than the safety offered by stagnation. And that's going to be it for today. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Smash the subscribe button, like the video, and if you enjoy what you heard, support the growth of the channel through Patreon or PayPal, description in the comments below. Until the next video, this is Curve Thought, and I'll see you then.